Hello and welcome to the second video for the month of July for Kitaholic Kits. This is Helen, by the way. I'm using the mixed media kit mainly today. As you can see, I've got an acrylic block out. Usually it's used for stamping, and I kind of think that's what I'm going to do, except for I'm going to be stamping some of these Vicky Bouton crayons. You see, I scribble them onto the acrylic block, activate them with some water, till I get a nice little messy pool there, and then I stamp them onto this piece of cardstock. It's the basil marshmallow cardstock that I like to use, supposedly because it's good for mixed media, although I still tend to warp it most times. But you can see I'm making a repeating pattern here with some of my favourite colours. I must admit, I was really happy when I opened up the box of crayons to see what colours I got, because greens and blues, if you've been watching my channel for a while, they are my favourite colours to scrapbook with. So the kits this month are just divine as far as I'm concerned. As you can see, I cut a bit out because I didn't want you to sit there watching me stamp away for ages, but I made a repeating pattern, and now I've pulled out the stencil that was in the mixed media kit and some of my own texture paste, and I just added some texture to it. And I've pulled out the blue spray from last month and I'm just sprinkling it around. I got this far and then I thought, now what am I going to do? In the main kit, there is a straw, and I was determined somehow to use that straw. Now I think I've come up with a pretty good way of using it. I'll let you decide as we go along. But I found this old photo of my son Sam. He was such a cheeky little rascal. He still is, though he's a big rascal now. And I used some of the pattern papers to mat it, and as I'm fiddling around and I got the straw out and the twine and I started to thread the twine through, I realised that I could make like a hanging banner, and that's what I set about doing. Now I wanted a bit of this blue, light blue, to just mat around, but I also knew I'd want some of that blue to mat around the whole page, so I placed the photo in the centre so that way I still had the whole 12 by 12 edge to use later. As you can see here, I've put the twine through the straw and I'm just trying to work out which direction do I want it to hang. And I decide that I want that mixed media part at the top, and so I turn it that way. I trim down that white cardstock, I used my double-sided tape method, and I'm set to go with that 12 by 12 blue border that I said earlier. I wanted this positioned in the centre, so I used my T-square ruler to do that, and now you can see I'm just putting a bit of glue across to get that straw attached to the top of the cardstock to make it look like it's that whole frame that the banner's hanging from. Now what you can see here is I'm cutting myself some strips. Some of them are about 3/4 of an inch wide, 1/2 an inch wide, maybe an inch, I can't remember, around that anyway, to make little banners. And you can see I'm just cutting little fishtail banners, I think they're called. And I'm making a repeating pattern using the same coloured cardstock that I've matted with on either side of the photo, so that I have that whole hanging banner look going across my page. As you can see, I'm just trying to position them, thinking about which one I want on top, which one I want on underneath, and attaching them as I'm going along. I try to put the shorter ones on the top so that you don't lose the effect of the tail. Mind you, I don't always stick to that, but that's what I try anyway. Now I'm sorry if the colouring or the light isn't quite the same with the recording of this video, but like my previous video, I was actually at my friend's for a scrapbooking weekend and I filmed it there. So it's not my usual setup. Lights aren't quite the same, but it's still, at least you can see there's a bit of glare at some points, which I apologise for. As you saw just a minute ago, I did use some glue. I put the glue down onto the card and the paper and then attached the twine through that so that you could see, I could position it exactly where I wanted. Now I've pulled out one of the chipboard pieces from the pack, and I thought, oh, I could back that like you would a die cut. But it was a bit thick, so you may have noticed I pulled off a few of the layers of the chipboard so it wasn't quite as high up. And then I've pulled out that word RAD. When my mum was looking at this layout, she did say to me, "What does RAD mean, Helen?" And I say, "Mum, means good, great, special, it's radical." "Yes, Helen," she said. Anyway, some of the clear stickers to build underneath the RAD. And then I decided I needed to balance it out at the top. And I pulled out some of the flare, and as you can see, I glued them down, added some twine, and I'm trying to attach the twine, or finish it off, I should say, because it is glued on with my tiny attacher, which I did on either side of the banner strip as well. And then I just felt I needed one more embellishment cluster spot, which is going to be right there with a few little clear stickers and a chipboard piece. And you can see I decided to bring in another star in that bottom cluster. And once again, that's from the die cut pack, so it's not as thick as the chipboard one, but you get the same effect. Just showing you that although you might see people doing that with the die cuts that they cut out of their cricket or their silhouette, you can do it with some of the die cut pieces in the packs as well. Little bit of an embellishment, enamel dots. I didn't really journal, and it's finished. Don't forget, pop on over to the Kitaholic Kits, subscribe, they're wonderful kits, and until next time, thanks!